Well, welcome back again. This is Ernest and Mike with the No Fences Show. Maybe I need to explain a little bit about No Fences too, because we did that in the first segment. But No Fences is a nonprofit organization that was formed to knock down the barriers and the fences that so many of us have to grow and mature to become the adult that we want to be.
Right, right.
Or the father we want to be, or the wife we want to be, or whatever the situation is. So No Fences is a nonprofit organization formed to start that. Now, you can contact us and ask any questions about knocking down some fences you may have in your life,
Yeah.
whether it be the beginning of substance abuse or alcohol or not understanding the relationship you're in. A real simple thing is I have a series of forms that I have couples that get together and they want to get married, or they get married and they're starting to struggle with the messing of the relationships.
Right.
And the personalities and the feelings and the emotions that goes on. Well, I have a series of forms that I ask them to fill out separately so each one doesn't read the other one's answers
Right.
on expectations.
Okay.
What do you expect from a husband?
Right.
Not out of the marriage.
Right.
What do you expect from a husband? And there's all kinds of different conditions: long-term, short-term, parents, children, no children, financially, saving. So what do you expect out of a husband in all these different situations? And then husband answers the same questions about the wife. Then we get together and we talk about their expectations.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't know you expected that from me.
Right.
Oh, I didn't know you expected that from me.
Right.
And we iron all that out. It makes it, I guess, a relationship a little bit clinical to start with, but it ends up the ones that finish working, and some say right there now, okay, we're done.
Right. Right.
But some say, you know what, this is worth making it work, and they now have a format to work from.
Okay.
And it's pretty concrete, works pretty well.
It's kind of what they teach us in recovery, that you meet somebody at first, especially when you're using, it's pure animal attraction.
Right.
And then you get married and you wake up one morning and say, who the hell is this I'm laying next to?
Yep. And what are your expectations? You
Right.
don't know.
You-
And they don't know your expectations.
Right.
And that's the hard part of relationships. And women all the time are guessing, what does he want? What does he need? How can I make him happy?
Right.
I hear that all the time.
Mhm.
I can't make him happy anymore. I can't satisfy him. And not sexually either, just
right.
in the home.
I know what you're saying.
And she doesn't know his expectations.
Right.
And he's not telling her.
Right.
Not that he's doing it deliberately, although he might be,
Right.
but not very often. But that's all the stuff that No Fences does.
Yeah.
And now to get back to the sponge
Okay, go back.
and the children.
Let's do it.
It says here, as we know, well, first of all, I'm going to go back here. If a person starts to wonder, what role am I playing? Because that's a big question I ask. You're in this situation in your life, whatever it might be. You may not like it, you may not accept any responsibility of it, but what was your part in it?
Right.
What was your role in getting where you're at today? They ask and they wonder, what role am I playing? And that person decides to change. They may need some help. This can come in many forms, some voluntarily, some involuntarily. It could come from moving out from the unhealthy atmosphere, or maybe going to jail. Maybe that needs to happen, that separation. Maybe that's a wake-up call.
Yes, some cases it true.
Or to a rehabilitation program, or a behavior program, or a form of individual or family counseling, or through finding religion. There's several different options, and there's several different religions that might suit an individual person to go out there. This change could be compared to wringing out the sponge. Now we're trying to get all the dirty water out of the sponge.
Now, I remember when you did that with the ink and the sponge.
I'm going to bring that back next time. So, if the sponge is put in a clean bowl of water, it will start to become clean. But as we know, the water gets dirty first.
Right.
So the sponge is getting clean, but at the same time it's trying to dirty the water. And that's what happens a lot with young children, especially in foster care.
Okay.
They go from home to home sometimes, home to home, and they have a behavior, they know what results they're going to get.
Right, right.
If I scream and holler, I know what's going to happen. But every new home, they don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
So they create an atmosphere like the last one they just left. And parents aren't aware of that. Foster parents aren't sometimes aware of, this is gonna be difficult. I mean, they know it's gonna be difficult because they're told that. But they don't know why it's difficult. Why is he behaving like that?
Right.
Well, he needs to have some security in his mind. And the security is, I can create the atmosphere I want, so I'm in charge.
Right.
And that's the way out of it. But what you talked about in the last show was that the drugs and alcohol and stuff that we do with families, and your granddaughter behaving one way in one place and behaving another way in another place. It's the atmosphere that she's in.
Right.
A peaceful atmosphere, a stressful atmosphere, and some people say you can cut the atmosphere with a knife.
Because I talked to my therapist about it, what she said. Because we went to my sister's house and we were there from a Wednesday night to a Sunday. And my sister has grandchildren and they were all playing together. She got tons of toys for the kids. But she did the crossing her arms and don't talk to me. And my sister and my brother-in-law literally sat her down between her and talked to her real calmly and said, any of this stuff you could play with, but it's not yours. You can't take it from everybody.
Yep.
But I won't, even though it's theirs, I won't let them take it from you.
Right.
And she calmed down, and then my sister had this, because she was still being potty trained, my sister had this musical pot for the kids.
Right.
It's got 2 pieces of metal in it. And when you pee in it, it sings.
Right?
So my sister would give her 2 M&Ms. So she kept, it was consistent. Going to the pot when she needed to go, she came home, she was almost potty trained.
Yeah.
And just that difference in 2 M&Ms.
Yep.
And she started asking for the M&Ms. My sister said, I didn't hear the pot sing. But just the atmosphere in that 6-day period, I could see the difference in my granddaughter. And I have to try and give my house some kind of peace and tranquility so I can get her some peace and tranquility. So exactly what you're saying is correct.
It's hard to do sometimes. I talk to some parents that their children, they've let their children get out of control by not knowing how to be firm. I use the quote all the time, firm, fair, and consistent. If you're always firm, fair, and consistent to everybody, then they can expect that from you. So when you're in your house, I ask parents to come up with house rules, not Earnest rules, not mom's rules, not dad's rules, but the house rule. In this house, we don't do that.
Right.
And then you have to enforce them. But the house rules are good for everybody,
Right.
not just that little girl.
Right.
And if you can come up with something like that, and another thing, just to support what you're saying, is I know when I'm running groups sometimes of guys, they get a little vulgar and they get a little careless, and I say, look, we don't talk like that here. We're trying to improve ourselves, not only ourselves, but our language as well.
Right.
And they say, well, this is the way I talk. I say, well, that's fine. Then we're gonna move all this meeting to the church. And we're gonna have our meetings in church from now on.
Right.
Well, why do that? Then I can't cuss.
Exactly.
Aha.
Exactly.
They know. It's situational learning. They know that in places they can act, in places they can't act.
Right.
We all know that.
Yes, we do.
And you have to train your daughter, your granddaughter, and teach her the same way, that there's things you don't do and things you do.
Right.
And this is a place you can do it, and this is a place you can't.
Right. And my therapist told me that situation, just the calmness, because you've talked to me about how calm your sister's house is, and how peaceful it is, and how mellow it is, and you know, it was very obvious. And in me, I see a difference. When I go to my brother's house, he lives in the middle of the hood, you know, where they just had a murder on the same street he lives on,
wow,
a
that's
2-year-old,
tough,
and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And then I go to my sister's house, who lives in Romeoville, and across from her house is a pond and a fountain.
Right.
And finally, one day I left my brother's house, and I was asking myself all the way to Kim's house, why do you always come to Kim's house? Why don't you go to Wayne, stay at Wayne's house? And as I drove into her complex, I seen the fountain and the peace and the quiet. And I drove right into her house, and I said, look, it's the peace and quiet, and that's what it is. And I called my brother and says, it's the corner he lives on, ambulances coming by literally all day and night, because
Right.
there's a hospital at the end of the street.
Wow.
So I'm hearing 50 ambulances, 60 ambulances a day, police cars. You go to her house, you sit on the front porch and you're looking at a fountain. It's definitely the difference.
It's a huge difference. And people don't realize it. And sometimes they want to almost destroy it
Right.
because they don't understand it and they can't deal with it. And, you know, a lot of stress from just the environment we're in. And they grow up stressful like that, and they have to have that stress to make them feel complete. And I'm not sure what your answer is going to be, but somehow you got to bring that whole atmosphere and stress level down.
I understand exactly what you're saying. It's like when I'm at my brother's house, I feel like I have to have a weapon.
And that's scary.
And it is scary because
Yeah.
I know where I'm at. You know, I watched him do, short story, 2 seconds. I watched him rob a dope dealer. They both came up to him, pushed him, because he's right across the street. He's in a plastic chair. They pushed him down, head hit the fence. One of them going in one pocket, one of them going in the other pocket. They jumped back in the car and drove off. It took as long as the conversation I just said.
Right, yeah.
And I'm sitting here watching it like where Bill is, because he lives on the corner.
Right.
And there's nothing like that when I go to Romeoville. The whole atmosphere, no hoodies, no bunch of gym shoe people, no Pookie.
Yeah.
So it's my mindset is totally different.
And how do we bring that atmosphere into the hood?
Right.
And it's hard.
It really is.
I don't know, I'm not saying it can't be done,
Right.
but it needs to start with the adults. And the adults training the children that this is the way it should be. You're gonna have enough stress in your life without creating more.
Well, I'll create more. I remember her daughter, we were around my mother's house before my mother moved, passed away. She was in the heart of Chicago. And my niece was getting out the car one day and she said, "Mom, why do they throw all that paper on the trash, on the ground, and the garbage can is right there?"
Yeah.
Because now where she was raised, the atmosphere has been changed for her. So
Yeah.
she picks trash up in
Yeah.
Romeoville, whereas they throw it on the street in Chicago.
Yeah. And that's an upbringing as well.
It is.
And it always gets back to, I hate to say it, and I said it in the beginning of part 3, to the parents. And being a parent is hard work.
Oh, it is.
It takes a lot of effort and a lot of attention, but when you are in charge and control of a life, a complete life, it needs to have your full attention.
It does.
Because what that attention and focus means is you won't have to go visit them in jail or go to the cemetery and pray over their grave.
You're right.
And that's hard for a wife or a mother or a father that cares to have to do.
I know.
And I'm not saying that, we're not gonna sit here and say all kids turn out that way, because like you, they can make a choice.
They can make a choice.
You made your choice earlier in life, I made mine later in life, but we still decided to make a choice.
Yes.
That judge convinced me, I don't wanna go back to jail with this guy,
Okay.
because I'm not gonna get out for a while.
Right.
And something hit, something sunk in, and that was it from that point on. Not that I was perfect, but it took me a while to get
Get up with
where I was
Yeah.
controlling myself. We have to somehow get that to the children younger. And we're going to keep working on that. Now, we got about a minute and a half again.
Cool.
So I'd like, if you got something you want to wind up with.
Just I like what you said, because those children, my sister's children and my brother's children, are all about the same age. They came from the same family. But my brother's boys grew up in the city.
Right.
And they have that city mentality. And her kids have a college mentality because they watched their mother and father go to college, and
Right.
that's what they did. And I can see the difference, And real quickly, my nephew, Kim's son, he was about 18 at the time, about 27 now. They shot up the school that he was going to right there in northern Illinois. And he called me up and he was like, "Unc, you've been in a combat situation. I never thought it was that bad, and how people react."
Crazy.
Yep.
Well, there's one little quote I'm going to read here at the end.
Go for it.
That we hope works for parents. It says, "You should live so that your children and others, when they think of fairness, truth, caring, and integrity, they think of you."
Ooh, I like that. And what page is that one on?
That's on page 16
Okay, I
in
gotta
chapter
read that.
2. If your children think of that and think of you in that context, you've done a wonderful job.
Okay.
You've done a wonderful job.
All right, Mike, we gotta go.
Yep.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for being here.
All right, we're gonna do this again.
Yep. Next week, 2 more chapters.
Okay.